What's going on, creators? I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about body narratives and body scripts and programs we can be telling ourselves unconsciously about the way we look, the way we feel, just our overall health and well-being. A lot of these things can start to just run on autopilot if you're not kind of actively like checking these beliefs and these assumptions and just like really asking yourself like, what is that, an old wives' tale? What am I believing? I mean, where's this coming from? And like, has the science changed since I started believing this? Am I incorporating new understandings about quantum science and like the quantum field, spirituality? How metaphysical healing, or any of these playing any active role in my mindset regarding this? Whether, I've experienced all sorts of things in my body over my lifetime, but, I've been almost like all things, with the, as I've been fat, I've been skinny, I've been really strong, I've been weak, it's like all these different types of like states, and I kind of like tend to gravitate more and more anymore towards like perpetually like improving in a way that is like taking more conscious effort into like developing things like I want to just develop more and more, so just because I just want to just demonstrate an example of who I am, and like part of that is like I personally with my body don't react well to being overweight. It's just like in my joints, I feel a lot of pain. I'm getting my hip replaced in a few days because of joint issues and just drama with that. And so that's a whole nother thing. But, even with that, catching a lot of like the stories that you tell yourself when you're like interacting with others, just like, are you feeling self-conscious? Are you feeling shame? Are you feeling like undesirable in the way that you're presenting yourself? Do you have this kind of inner nagging, I wouldn't say maybe nag, but this inner kind of thing where it's just like, I really need to make this adjustment, I need to do this, but you just keep getting in these like kind of cycles of avoiding it, or cycles of just like, I'll go to the gym tomorrow, and never making it to the here and now, never start to take action today, which is very, very important in like really moving into a new the new you. The new you in Christ is all about looking at what was, who you were, and really asking yourself, do you want to choose to continue to be like that, or do you want to move in a different direction? Does that feel like you're demonstrating like a heaven, or are you demonstrating sickness and death and suffering and hell? It's like, what are you demonstrating with your body? And so a lot of it has to do with what we've already been demonstrating in our consciousness. Has a way of externalizing and manifesting our body on some level, or at least our perception of it. Maybe there's some issues like me and my like dealing with hip issues and whatnot. I've been putting a lot of like practice into like, the law of assumption of like assuming that, that it's been healed and all this other stuff. Well, to me, the bridge of incidence that has unfolded in this particular way. And so, with that, I'm not being in a state of resistance about it. I don't understand why it's going in this flow, but the same kind of thing happened when I got glasses. I was like kind of assuming that my vision was like healed or whatever, and just had faith that that was going to happen. Well, then the next thing I was doing a job and I see like this glasses place and had a deal, and it was like, man, I can afford that. That's not even that expensive. I had this subconscious or conscious block, for some reason thinking it would be like $500 or something like that. I don't know why I thought it'd be so much, but like, it was a factor in me resisting getting glasses for a couple years actually, but things have manifested in this way for me, not to say that you can't be just miraculously healed like that, whereas like there's other areas of my body that like I don't get sick, I don't get like, so there's like things going on of like, why am I healing over here and not over here? I don't know. The Bible talks about a situation like that, being like a thorn in the side or something like that, where it's just like, it's not making sense the way, my, kind of conscious mind understands at the moment, but not to get too hung up on it, but to like continue to have a positive mental attitude towards it, looking, I think a big part of it is just in that finality of like, this is the new state, because it's been something I've like dealt with for like 25 years or something like that. A big portion of my life. I'm 37 now, so it's like the majority of my memory of being like in this body has had this issue. And so I feel like the finality, of like the surgery and everything will play like a big role in like the healing process, moving forward. And keeping those narratives like in the mind of like, do I want this to manifest? Do I want to be thinking this way? And then having like, if I'm having fear and hysteria, for example, do I want that to manifest? It's like, well, no. Then it's like, well, I'm going to put my attention on what I do desire then, which is to demonstrate my inherent ability to heal, that my God-given ability to heal. It's like God is the source of like my healing, so I want to demonstrate that through my life. And like, with that, encouraging other people to help them on their path, and I know a lot of people struggle like with weight loss, which is not something I struggle with all that much, because like I'm like physically active in like handyman work, and like part of what I catch myself doing, what I did in the past, which was kind of a hang up when I first started to like I've always just believed that to lose weight, you just burn, you get into a calorie deficit. It's like if you're burning 2,000 calories a day to maintain, which I don't think even maintaining is a real thing. I think you're either like building yourself up more and more so and evolving that, or there's a gradual, maybe slow, but steady decline. And so I don't really think that there's a neutral way to think about it, because I don't think there's really a inherently neutral thought. I think they're either charged, positively or negatively with, well, actually there's only, I believe, to be one power, but it's whether you have it or you don't. So it's like when you have that one power flowing through you, you're demonstrating more health. When that's lacking, then you're demonstrating more disease and more, physical symptoms of like that state of mind. But, that's just my faith and my beliefs. It doesn't mean that's necessarily true for everybody. It's, I think another big part of it is like whatever you believe to be true about reality is then reflected back to you like a big mirror. So there's lots of different ways to look at something. But, for me, what has been helpful is like when feeling like the sensations of hunger, instead of having the mental narrative of, oh, I'm so fucking hungry. Oh, I'm getting irritable. Oh, this person's starting to piss me off because I feel like a certain way. And just have that unconscious mental chatter that's negative, that's like undesirable in a lot of different ways, that's like reflecting a lot of what you don't want to have happen. You don't want to spend the eternal moment of now just constantly just bitching and complaining and just like woe is me and everything else. So it's important to catch those mental narratives, not to sit there and resist them, but to observe them and then choose, or to ask God in that particular moment to give you a different way to think about it, to look at it, get for a new perspective, a more in alignment to the truth. What is true about you and your relationship to God and your body and everything else. Is this thought that is bothering you? Is that is that an example of an error in thinking? Is that based on your assumption that you are cursed, that you're the old creation? That's for you to unpack, but for me, it was more about starting to redefine that as, when I feel this sensation of hunger, then in this moment I'm burning my reserve, which is all fat kind of is. It's just like your reserve of energy. If you think of things in terms of energy, it makes more sense, where it's like you just have a buildup of potential that you haven't burned off through efforting and action and physical exercising and moving around, and the mentality that that you're not unconsciously sabotaging yourself, but start to revise how you're thinking about that sensation to realign to your goal, which is getting more fit, to hitting a target, to seeing your body change in a more desirable way that you are defining. I mean, you don't have to look towards the world to define who you are. You already know what you like and what you don't like, and whether you're demonstrating what you feel like is beautiful, hot, attractive, whatever. It's like that's what you're demonstrating. If you're not, then what's the story of like, oh, I'm unattractive or this or that? It's like, well, that's contrary to what God says about you. God says you're a masterpiece, and you are created in God's image, and God is perfect. So it's like you need to start to realign your mindset to more in alignment with God created something perfect. Why am I not able to receive that? Why am I having so much resistance to that? Why do I think contrary to that? And that's the shit to start to let go of. Start like letting go of a lot of those toxic programs that aren't really serving you in a meaningful way, which are sabotaging you and distorting your perception of what you even look like to yourself. It's like a good example of that is possibly like, people with eating disorders where they're seeing themselves in a mirror distortedly. They're not recognizing the fact that they already are like malnourished or something, and it's like their ribs are sticking out and they look very, frail, and there's like just like no fat on them, but they still see an image that corresponds to a delusion, believing a lie, ultimately believing something about themselves that's not true, and people will mirror what we feel about ourselves, so it's like if being attractive it starts with you and how you think about yourself. And so it's like if you believe that about yourself, that you are unique, just as like a snowflake is unique, we're all unique. There's not one that's like, oh, there's a special little snowflake. It's like we're all unique in a certain way. And there's ways. There's people that have been on magazines and shit where it's like I look at them like, what? It's like that doesn't make sense to me. But it's like I don't see that. Male or female. It's like I've seen it both ways where it's like there's like, oh, look at this supermodel chick, she's so hot. It's like I don't see it. But like that's just like everybody has preferences and tastes and shit. So it's like but it's more importantly that you see yourself in a positive light in relationship to what God says about you anyway. It's all about believing stuff that's true. And so in that process too, as you start to lose like the weight and your body starts changing in front of your eyes, it's like one of the things, besides looking at feeling hungry as a good thing because that you're starting to use that reserve, well then obviously if you can start recognizing more and more times that you are active throughout the day, and realize that those increase how much calories you're burning, for example, and start focusing on areas that you want to develop. If your arms, for example, you just don't like, they look scrawny or something, when you're like maybe cleaning up your house, start to put attention towards those areas and start to, like, I'm going to pick this shit up. I'm going to move this shit over here. I'm going to use that more consciously, those areas, or I'm going to just flex my core when I'm just doing this. Or it's like, oh, I'm watching TV, there's a commercial, I'm just going to, do some push-ups or something. It's all about like, kind of starting to move in a direction where your body is starting to demonstrate where you want it to be mentally first. And so, your consciousness is really important as it's developing through this thing, because the other end of it is to start to put on that ideal version of you now. It's not once you hit this imaginary target, because then you'll just continuously chase these carrots. It's like, well, I will feel this certain way when I have my body demonstrating this way. Well, then it does, and then you still feel the same way, and then you're just like, well, if I just had a couple more abs showing, then I can feel a certain way. Oh, if I just had this, then I could feel. So it's like start putting it on now that you've made the choice to be healthy and demonstrate that, regardless of where you actually are, because we're just going to start taking where you are, not some imaginary future, but now, and making the choice that today I'm right here, right now. I'm going to demonstrate health, because God is an example of health. God is healing. Your heart is beating because God desires your heart to be beating, and your healing is it's all happening to you. It's a correspondence between you and your mental attitude, your body. So if there's parts of it that are standing out, there's more than likely a lot of drama and mental stories you have, especially if you've been self-conscious about it for a long time. To start to work on with your creator, for one, and then to start taking new action. If you're not exercising a lot, if you're not being active, you can still lose weight. You can still start to burn those extra energy reserves by just having a calorie deficit, for example. And like I get these like snack crates and shit from other parts of the world where they don't even use calories, they just use energy numbers. I think it means the exact same thing, but it's just, I don't know how that's, what energy number you're supposed to hit. But if you think of it in that way, it makes it easier when you're feeling hungry to realize you're just burning energy now that's just been in reserve. So that's step one. But then, start to work on your mindset and to embody the fact that you're blessed right now. And that's what I feel like is a part of like why I have issues like up until this surgery that's coming up, is it's hard to continuously put on that new when anytime there's like a sensation of pain or something, it immediately, you get the default, well, it's because of this and this and this. So it's, and I feel like that's just another limiting. But I honestly, I feel like it's possible I could wake up tomorrow and it could, I could just get up from this chair and it could be just resolved. It's like there's been times just even throughout the day where it feels like perfectly normal. Then it makes me then start to spin out like, well, maybe I I got this surgery. What if it's normal? And it's like, again, all this resistance, all this drama to what is, start to enjoy the flow of like, this healing process. Realize that everything that's happening is unfolding, is being done to you in correspondence to your state of consciousness. And so if there's things that are undesirable that are manifesting, look at them, but instead of reacting out of fear, which is the main thing that the old state of mind likes to do, is just react out of fear and then become hysterical and I gotta fix the problem, I gotta do this, which then doubles down on the problem, starts to really fucking focus a lot of attention and energy into a problem, then creates it, then it creates more problems. And it's I feel like a stumbling block that I've experienced at least. And so try to help other people not fall down that trap. But if you do, it's only ever now. So it's like, start to remind yourself in the here and now, oh, wait a minute, I started believing I was sick again. I started believing I was weak again. I started believing I was this again, that again, whatever. Oh, I'm starting to feel like, people think I'm ugly. Maybe that's a thought, and then it's not surprising then if you believe that about yourself, then to experience that reflected back through people in your relationships in life, just echoing that belief back to you. So instead of getting super triggered and upset about it, like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that, and whatever, just like use that as like, oh, I'm still believing that about myself. If I really put on the new me, who I desire to, it's like you already know who you are at the deepest level, and at least God knows it, and God is, the connection you have with your Creator is within you. So it's like that is within you inherently. It's up to you to kind of start to let go of this shit that's making you forget, making you think these things are an error, and then start taking new action. That's a big deal to renewing your mind. Your mind and body is connected, and it's like, as someone who has like experienced like being super lazy, I was like a drunk for a long time, it was like all this kind of shit, I was like really out of shape for a while. I smoked a lot of cigarettes and smoked a lot of weed there for a while, and it's just like all this shit going on. And then there's like been times where I've been super healthy and like exercising a lot and like getting pretty fit and everything. And then it's like to compare those two states is why, I think it's important to share that with people, because it feels so much better to be exercising and to be in shape and to be, doing that, even though at the time it might feel like, oh fuck, I gotta go do this again, and it's like, but when you get done with it, you feel like energized and you feel like healthier and you feel just like better about your mind body connection and just doing it. That's really beneficial, and I think it also snaps people out of this state, like hopeless states of consciousness, these states where your just body is just deteriorating and you feel like you're like a helpless victim, like you can't do nothing about it. You can do all sorts of shit about it, and so with that being said, though, I think on a balance, I just want to share that with you guys. It's like, like I said, it's been on my mind since like the last video to kind of talk about that, because I know people have issues with it. I know I've, had times in the past where like feeling hungry, it's easy to just like, I'm just going to go eat a whole bunch of shit or whatever. But that has been really helpful for me. And so I just wanted to share that tip, and that tip doesn't require anything but just like kind of applying it to right now. And you can start doing that, and the other kind of tip would be like not so focus on what you don't want. It's like, I don't want this like fat or whatever. Like the more you focus on that and you make it a challenge and a pedestal, the more it becomes a challenge and a pedestal. So it's like start focusing on what you do want, how to improve it versus focusing on what you don't like about it. Focus on what you do like and start to grow it. Is that another helpful piece of advice? And so, with that being said, you can disregard that. Get triggered by it. Say I'm like shaming people or whatever, and I don't know. Some people can just take anything I say and just like they can hear whatever they want to hear. It's weird, but with that being said, I think on a balance, it's like I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. Thank you for that. Put it to good use. And until the next now, God bless.